Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at homemade toothpaste.
Ooh, fun.
It's something that I think about a lot. I see it all over the place,
hmm
online and in articles and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely trendy.
Yeah, so we found this really cool article that we're going to be taking a look at today, all about homemade toothpaste. And
Yeah.
it goes into, all the different aspects of it.
It's a
So
lot to unpack.
it is, yeah, from like what the potential benefits are
Yeah.
to, whether or not it actually works.
Right, what the risks are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to break it all down.
Yeah.
So this article starts off by posing this question of like, is homemade toothpaste actually better
Right.
than the store-bought stuff? And I'm curious to hear your take on that. Like what makes people think that it might be better?
Well, I think one of the biggest draws is the control over ingredients. You can really avoid things that you're concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you don't want SLS in your toothpaste. That's a really common one.
Yeah.
Sodium lauryl sulfate.
Yeah, that's the stuff that makes it all foamy.
Exactly. Yeah. And some people find that irritating. So
Yeah, makes sense.
that's one reason.
And I know some people are also trying to avoid fluoride,
Right.
but the article also makes this point that just because it's homemade doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be more effective.
Exactly.
So there are some trade-offs, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, commercial toothpaste has come a long way, and there's a lot of research, backing up some of those added ingredients.
Right.
Like fluoride, for example. There's tons of research showing that it can really help remineralize teeth and prevent cavities. And some people are putting hydroxyapatite in homemade toothpaste, which is great. It does have some remineralizing properties.
Yeah, I was going to say I've seen that ingredient.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the research still shows that fluoride is kind of the gold standard for cavity prevention.
Gotcha. So maybe you're missing out on a little bit of that protection.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like picking your battles a little bit. You might be avoiding certain ingredients, but maybe compromising on other benefits.
Exactly.
And speaking of trade-offs, let's talk about convenience for a minute.
Okay.
Because, I mean, sometimes, I'm all about DIY, but sometimes you just want to go to the store and grab a tube of toothpaste and be done with it.
Right, it's easy. And I think, I was really surprised by this too, that there are some risks that come with homemade toothpaste
Oh, really?
that I hadn't really considered before reading this article.
Like what?
One of them is abrasiveness.
Hmm.
So some of those DIY ingredients, like charcoal or baking soda, can actually wear away your enamel if you're not careful.
Oh, wow.
And that's, enamel is that hard outer layer of your teeth that protects them. And once it's gone, it's gone.
Yikes.
So it's not something to mess around with.
So those are ingredients we got to be careful with.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get into some specifics here. This article walks us through 3 different homemade toothpaste recipes.
Okay.
The first one is like the most basic. It's called the basic baking soda paste. So, I feel like I already know what's in it.
It's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, it's just baking soda and water.
Okay.
You can also use coconut oil instead of water.
Okay.
Coconut oil has some antimicrobial properties.
Interesting.
So that's kind of a nice little addition.
But I mean, baking soda, I always hear about baking soda for cleaning.
Right. It's like the miracle ingredient.
Everything, yeah. So it's a good cleaner.
Yeah.
So I imagine that's what makes it good in toothpaste.
Exactly. Yeah. It acts as a mild abrasive to help remove plaque and surface stains.
Okay.
So it's kind of like polishing your teeth.
Okay, but how does that work in terms of like the safety factor?
Right.
You were talking about how some ingredients can be too abrasive.
Right. So with baking soda, it really comes down to concentration and frequency of use.
Okay.
So a little bit of baking soda every once in a while is probably not going to hurt you.
Okay.
But if you're using a really concentrated baking soda paste every single day, you could start to wear away that enamel over time.
Gotcha. So it's all about moderation.
Exactly. Moderation is key.
Just like with most things.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, so let's move on to recipe number 2. This one is called Taking It Up a Notch with Remineralization.
Ooh, fancy.
Sounds a little more
Well,
sophisticated.
this is where we start to see some of those alternative ingredients like hydroxyapatite,
Okay.
which we were talking about earlier. It can help to remineralize and strengthen teeth.
So this one's more about actually rebuilding that enamel
Right, more of a proactive approach.
than just cleaning it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So what else is in this recipe?
They also add cacao powder, which is interesting.
Cacao powder like chocolate?
Yeah, basically unprocessed cocoa.
Oh, wow.
And it contains a compound called theobromine
Okay.
that can actually help to recrystallize tooth enamel.
Wait, are you telling me chocolate is good for my teeth? Because I'm here for that.
Not quite that simple. Unfortunately, the amount of theobromine in cacao powder is pretty small, so it's not going to like miraculously transform your oral health. And there's also the potential for teeth discoloration if you use it too often.
Ah, got
It's
to
especially if you already have thin enamel.
So maybe I'll stick to eating my chocolate
Probably a good idea.
separately.
Okay.
All right, so recipe number 3. This one's called Flavor and Texture Boost.
Oh, okay, finally some flavor.
But this one actually sounds like it might be kind of enjoyable to use.
Yeah, they're really trying to make that homemade toothpaste a little more palatable.
Right.
So this one has xylitol, which
yeah.
is a natural sweetener that fights bacteria, and it also helps to stimulate saliva production.
Ah,
And saliva is actually really important for keeping your mouth clean.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, what else is in there?
They also add peppermint essential oil, so you get that nice, clean, minty flavor.
Okay.
And it can also have some antibacterial effects.
Yeah.
And then finally, they add arrowroot powder, which is just to create that smooth, foamy texture that we're all used to with toothpaste.
Gotcha. So it's all about the sensory experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about these different recipes. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about safety.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that some ingredients can be a little bit risky.
Yeah.
So are there any, like, red flags that people should look out for when they're choosing ingredients for their homemade toothpaste?
Yeah, definitely. The article goes into this in detail, and there are some ingredients that are generally safe to use in moderation. Things like baking soda, coconut oil,
Okay.
salt, HAP, xylitol, sage, arrowroot powder.
Gotcha.
Those are all pretty safe.
Okay.
And then there are some to use with caution, like cacao powder. We talked about the staining potential.
Right.
And essential oils. Those can be irritating to some people.
Okay.
But then there are some that you definitely want to avoid altogether.
Like what?
Charcoal is a big one.
Okay.
That's way too abrasive for your teeth.
Oh, wow.
So stay away from the charcoal toothpaste.
I've seen that one around, yeah.
Yeah, it's really popular, but it's not good for your teeth. Hydrogen peroxide is another one that you want to be careful with.
Okay.
It's a bleaching agent, so it can whiten your teeth, but it needs to be used in very carefully controlled concentrations.
Okay.
So using it at home without proper guidance can actually really damage your teeth.
Gotcha. So leave that one to the professionals.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Acidic ingredients like lemon juice, you want to avoid those as well.
Right, those can erode your enamel.
And, of course, anything that you're allergic to is a no-go.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like choosing your ingredients carefully is really important, and I imagine measuring them out accurately is also a big deal, especially with those abrasive ingredients.
Yeah, you're totally right. Even those safe ingredients can become harmful if you use too much of them.
Okay.
So always start with small amounts, and you can always add more if you need to.
That's a good point.
It's better to err on the side of caution.
Yeah. Okay, so I know a lot of parents are interested in natural options for their kids. So is homemade toothpaste safe and effective for children?
That's a great question, and, it deserves its own deep dive. But
Yeah.
in a nutshell, if you're using safe ingredients, homemade toothpaste probably won't cause any immediate harm,
Okay.
but it might not provide the same level of protection as a fluoride toothpaste.
Okay.
And the American Dental Association actually recommends fluoride toothpaste for children 2 years and older.
Right. Fluoride is like the gold standard for cavity prevention.
Exactly. It really helps to protect those little teeth.
Yeah, but I know some parents are concerned about the risk of fluorosis, if kids swallow too much fluoride.
Right. And that's a valid concern. The key is just using the right amount.
Okay.
For young children, a tiny smear of toothpaste is enough.
Okay.
And there are also some fluoride-free alternatives out there that use hydroxyapatite instead.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the article mentions one called Kindercarex that's specifically formulated for kids.
Okay.
So that's a good option if you're looking for something fluoride-free.
All right, so there's a lot to consider there when it comes to toothpaste, whether you're buying it or making it.
It's more complicated than you think.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, toothpaste is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to oral health.
That's so true.
It's not the only thing that matters.
Right. I mean, what you eat, how often you brush and floss, all of that plays a role too.
Yeah. I mean, I know we talk about this all the time, but it's so important to remember that
It really is.
it's not just about the products that we use.
Exactly.
It's a holistic approach.
Yeah, and speaking of holistic approaches, we were talking about xylitol earlier.
Right.
And how it stimulates saliva production.
Yeah.
I've always heard that saliva is important for oral health, but I never really understood why.
Well, saliva is actually your mouth's natural cleaning agent.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It helps to neutralize acids and wash away food particles.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of like your mouth's own little cleaning crew.
I love that.
Yeah, so those salivary glands are working hard to keep your mouth clean.
Okay, so even if you've got the perfect toothpaste, if your mouth isn't producing enough saliva.
You're still at risk.
Exactly.
So what are some things that people can do to promote saliva production?
Well, staying hydrated is huge.
Okay.
Just drinking plenty of water throughout the day helps to keep those salivary glands working properly.
Oh,
Um, Chewing sugar-free gum can also help to stimulate saliva production.
okay.
And avoiding sugary drinks and processed foods is a good idea because those can actually dry out your mouth.
Ah, okay, so it's kind of like a domino effect.
Right.
It all comes back to those healthy habits.
Exactly. It all ties together.
All right, so it sounds like we've got a lot to think about when it comes to homemade toothpaste.
We do.
So we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back in part 2, we're going to be tackling a listener question that we've been getting a lot,
Like, ooh, okay.
which is, can homemade toothpaste actually whiten your teeth?
I'm excited to dive into that one.
Me too, so
Yeah.
stay tuned. Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle this question of whether or not homemade toothpaste can actually whiten your teeth.
All right, let's get into it.
I'm curious about this one because, we've all seen those DIY whitening hacks online.
Right. Everyone wants a brighter smile.
Yeah, and it seems like people are always looking for those natural solutions.
Yeah, definitely.
But can a homemade toothpaste really deliver those sparkling white results?
That's the million-dollar question. I think it's important to manage expectations. We're not talking about dramatic overnight transformations here.
Right, okay.
But some homemade toothpaste ingredients can have a mild whitening effect.
So no replacing those professional whitening treatments just yet.
Probably not.
But what are some of those ingredients that people claim can whiten teeth?
Well, the most common one is baking soda,
Okay.
that trusty kitchen staple we were talking about earlier.
Right, good for everything.
Yeah, it's a mild abrasive, so it can help to remove surface stains from your teeth, making them appear brighter.
Okay, so it's like gently polishing away those stains.
Exactly.
But didn't we also say that too much baking soda can be bad for your enamel?
Right, that's the catch. You got to find that sweet spot between effectiveness and safety.
Okay, so how much is too much?
It's hard to say, it depends on the individual and the concentration of the baking soda.
Gotcha.
But in general, you want to use just enough to lift those surface stains without damaging that enamel.
Okay, moderation is key.
Always.
All right. What about coconut oil? I've heard that can whiten teeth too.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. There's actually no scientific evidence to support coconut oil as a whitening agent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but some people believe that the lauric acid it contains can help to break down stain-causing bacteria.
Okay.
So it's more about preventing future stains than actually bleaching your teeth.
So it's kind of like a preventative measure
Exactly.
rather than a quick fix.
Right.
Okay, what about some of those other trendy ingredients we see like charcoal or hydrogen peroxide?
Oh, yeah, those are the ones you want to be extra cautious with.
I was going to say, I'm a little hesitant about those. Oh.
And rightfully so. Charcoal, while it's marketed as a natural solution, is actually very abrasive, even more so than baking soda.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it can actually wear away your enamel, making your teeth more susceptible to staining in the long run.
So it's like you're trying to whiten your teeth, but you're actually making them more likely to stain.
Exactly, it's counterproductive.
Wow. Okay, what about hydrogen peroxide?
Uh,
I know that's used in some professional whitening treatments,
right.
but is it safe to DIY?
Not really. Hydrogen peroxide is a bleaching agent, and while it can be effective at whitening teeth, it needs to be used in very carefully controlled concentrations.
Okay.
And using it at home without proper guidance can lead to all sorts of problems like enamel erosion, gum irritation, tooth sensitivity.
Yeah, not good.
So it's best to leave that one to the professionals.
Okay, so it sounds like when it comes to whitening, the safest and most effective route is to stick with those professional treatments or, reputable whitening toothpastes that have been clinically tested.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But what if you're not looking for a dramatic change in shade? You just want to maintain your current whiteness and maybe brighten things up a little bit.
Right.
Are there any DIY options that are safe and effective?
Well, the article doesn't go into specific recipes for whitening, but it does highlight a few ingredients that can promote overall oral health, which indirectly contributes to a brighter smile.
Okay, I like where this is going.
So healthy teeth are naturally more radiant.
Right, that makes sense.
So one of those ingredients is xylitol.
Okay, we talked about that one earlier.
Yeah, it's a natural sweetener that helps fight bacteria and promote saliva production.
And saliva is our mouth's natural cleaning agent.
Exactly. It helps wash away food particles and neutralize acids that can lead to stains.
So it's like a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
The article also mentions strawberries.
Strawberries.
Yeah, the fruit.
Interesting.
They contain an enzyme called malic acid that can help to dissolve surface stains.
Oh, wow.
But again, this is a very mild effect, and strawberries are also acidic, so you don't want to go overboard.
Right, so maybe a strawberry slice on your toothbrush once in a while, but not a full-on strawberry smoothie as toothpaste.
Exactly.
What about oil pulling? I've heard people rave about that for whitening.
Yeah, oil pulling is an ancient Ayurvedic practice that involves swishing oil around in your mouth for several minutes,
Okay.
usually about 10 to 20.
Wow.
The most commonly used oil is coconut oil. And while the research on its effectiveness for whitening is limited, some people swear by it.
Interesting. I've always been curious about oil pulling.
Yeah, it's worth exploring.
Maybe we'll do a deep dive on that
That'll
sometime.
be fun.
But for now, let's circle back to the original question. Can homemade toothpaste really whiten your teeth?
The bottom line is don't expect dramatic results.
Okay.
Some ingredients can have a mild whitening effect, but they're not a replacement for professional treatments.
Right.
And remember, always prioritize the health of your enamel over a quick fix.
That's a good point. So if you're dreaming of a Hollywood-worthy smile, talk to your dentist. But if you're happy with your natural shade and just want to maintain that brightness and keep things healthy, a homemade toothpaste with safe and gentle ingredients might be a good option.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground when it comes to the whitening potential of homemade toothpaste.
Mm-hmm.
Are we ready to move on to our final part?
Let's do it. I'm curious to explore this next topic. It's one that's top of mind for a lot of people these days.
Me too. In our final segment, we'll be tackling the sustainability question. Is DIY toothpaste truly better for the environment, or is it just another trendy fad? Stay tuned to find out. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into homemade toothpaste, and this time we're talking sustainability.
All right, let's go green.
I've got to admit, I'm really curious about this aspect because on the surface, DIY seems like it would be the more eco-friendly option.
Right, less packaging, fewer chemicals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But is it really that simple?
That's the question, isn't it? And
Yeah.
the answer, as with most things in life, is not a simple yes or no.
Okay, so let's break it down.
All right, so there are definitely some environmental perks to making your own toothpaste. Like you said, reducing plastic waste is a big one.
Yeah, all those empty tubes ending up in landfills.
Exactly. With DIY, you can reuse glass jars or other sustainable containers,
Right.
which is a win for the planet.
And we've talked about ingredient control. You know, choosing natural, ethically sourced ingredients over potentially harmful or unsustainable ones.
Right, that's another point.
So there's some clear benefits there.
Yeah, but here's where things get a little tricky.
Okay.
The environmental footprint of any product, toothpaste included, isn't just about the final product itself. It's about the entire journey from sourcing the raw materials to manufacturing, transportation, and even disposal.
So we need to look at the whole picture, like the entire life cycle of the product.
Exactly. It's about taking a holistic view.
That makes sense, but it also seems really complicated to assess.
It can be, yeah.
Like, how do we even begin to weigh all those factors?
It's a challenge, for sure. And it's where DIY toothpaste can get a little murky. For example, if you're sourcing your ingredients from all over the globe, those transportation emissions could actually offset any benefits you gain from reducing packaging waste.
That's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about the carbon footprint of shipping all those ingredients.
Yeah, it's something to consider.
So are we saying that there's no clear answer to the sustainability question?
Unfortunately, there isn't a simple one-size-fits-all answer. It really depends on a variety of factors, like where your ingredients come from, how they are produced, and what kind of packaging you use for your homemade toothpaste.
Okay, so it sounds like we're back to that case-by-case basis, just like with the effectiveness and safety of homemade toothpaste. It's all about doing your homework and making informed decisions based on your own values and priorities.
Exactly. It's about being a conscious consumer.
But what if DIY just isn't feasible for me, or it turns out to be less sustainable than I thought? Are there other ways to be more eco-conscious about my oral hygiene routine?
Absolutely. There are tons of ways to green your brushing routine. For starters, keep an eye out for toothpaste brands that are using sustainable packaging.
Okay.
Some companies are now offering toothpaste tablets in compostable packaging,
I've seen those.
or using recyclable tubes made from plant-based materials.
Oh, cool.
So there are definitely options out there.
And choosing toothpaste made with natural and ethically sourced ingredients is a good step too, right?
Absolutely. Look for certifications like organic fair trade or cruelty-free.
Okay.
And don't underestimate the power of simple actions like turning off the water while you brush
Right.
and using a reusable cup for rinsing.
Yeah, those little things can make a big difference.
Exactly. Every little bit helps.
It seems like there's a lot we can do even if we're not ready to go full DIY.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, the most sustainable option is the one you'll actually stick with.
That's a good point.
So whether you're a DIY enthusiast or you prefer ready-made options, the important thing is to be conscious of your choices and align them with your values.
Well said. All right, so it feels like we've reached the end of our deep dive into homemade toothpaste. We've covered everything from ingredients and recipes to safety, effectiveness, whitening claims, and now sustainability. It's been quite a journey.
It has. We've really explored this topic from all angles.
And I think the biggest takeaway is that there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to toothpaste.
Exactly. It's all about understanding your own needs, preferences, and values, and then making informed choices based on what you've learned.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, whether you're brushing with a store-bought tube, a homemade concoction, or those trendy toothpaste tablets, the fundamentals of good oral hygiene remain the same.
Absolutely. Brush regularly, floss daily, and see your dentist for those all-important checkups.
Those are the golden rules for a healthy and happy smile.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Deep Dive. We hoped you found this exploration of homemade toothpaste insightful and empowering. We'd love to hear from you. Have you experimented with DIY toothpaste? What are your favorite eco-friendly oral hygiene tips? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.
And as always, keep those pearly whites shining.
Until next time, happy brushing.